Hey everybody, welcome back to the Print 3D channel. We got some more filament to check out, and this one's from AMZ 3D Filament. So let's do an unboxing and a first print on this episode of How We 3D Print with AMZ 3D Filament. So stick around. Hey everybody, welcome back, and thank you for joining me here for another episode of How We 3D Print With. On this episode, it's AMZ 3D Filament. And before we get started, a little disclaimer. I wasn't compensated in any way for the review, the unboxing, or for the printing, or my opinions. This filament was sent for free for review. As long as we have that out of the way, there is a little story behind this filament. This filament comes actually from Jimmy Shaw, my good friend Jimmy Shaw over at Jimmy Shaw's Tidbits. And I'll put his information down in the description. And he actually hooked me up with the gentleman who runs AMZ 3D Filament. And the conversation went on for a little bit, and we talked about what we're doing here on the Print 3D channel with our 365 project, and also with our Halloween project. And I really was looking for other filaments to try out during the Halloween project so we can have a variety of stuff to show you guys. And lo and behold, he sent me a box of filament. And it wasn't just a roll of filament. It's a big box of filament. And I did already open it up just to make sure there were no spiders inside, so there's no spiders, so we're safe there. So let's go ahead and open it up and show you what they sent us. Now, once again, this comes from Jimmy Shaw, and I really want to give a huge shout out to Jimmy Shaw for hooking me up with AMZ 3D Filament. I really appreciate it, my friend. Thank you very much. And I'm really anxious to try this because I've watched a couple of the videos that Jimmy has done, and I've seen some of the filament printed, and it looks really cool. So I'm anxious to see what these filaments look like. I opened the box just briefly to make sure there was no spiders and to make sure there was any kind of paperwork in here, so we did the unboxing. I wouldn't reveal my address because it comes via Amazon. It looks like it comes via Amazon fulfillment. So let's go ahead and open it up and see what we got inside. So once again, thanks Jimmy, and thank you AMZ 3D Filaments for sending this along for us to test out on the channel. So in the box we have, it looks like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6 rolls of filament to try out. That's awesome. That's very, very cool. And right off the bat, I can tell you right now, and you can probably see in the overhead camera, each of the boxes is nicely labeled. And if you've gone, and I'll put the information down for Amazon down in the description where you guys can check out the full line of colors, because they do make a ton of colors. There's a lot of filament available from this company. So, and it's nice to see a nice variety of stuff here. I see a lot of different colors in here. So let's go ahead and unbox them. So the first box I'm looking at is, it looks like it's a 1 kilo spool, and it's 1.75 millimeter black PLA, and it says an accuracy of plus or minus 0.03 millimeters. So that's pretty cool. That's a really good accuracy. It's a nice box. It's got a nice open. Oh, it's actually got some nice packaging too. So here is AMZ's 3D Filament. So we'll put this package off to the side here, and we'll take a look at the actual packaging. So the front of the spool says black, and this is PLA. Diameter is 1.75 with a tolerance again of plus or minus 0.03 millimeters. Net weight's 1 kilo. Temperature range is 180 to 210, and it does say made in China. And then there's also some Chinese writing on the other side. So this is obviously, and there's a label here that says it's made in China. So this is made in China filament. And my first impression right off the bat, it's nicely sealed in this vacuum peel. I can see that there's a silica pack inside. You can see that in there. And I see some retainer holes, looks like on 2 sides. And there's a little viewing window here near the bottom of at the end of the spool. So you can see that in the overhead camera there. So you can tell when you're right near the bottom. So that's pretty cool. That's excellent. So even if you don't have a clear spool holder, at least there's a hole here to know when you're getting down near the bottom of your spool. So that's really cool. So that's really nice. So that's our first pack, and that's our black. And we'll set these off to the side here. We'll check out our next color. It looks like it's red. Same kind of packaging, exactly the same kind of packaging. So we'll open this up. And here's our red. Same exact type on the front of the spools. And same exact information, 1.75 plus or minus 0.03, 180 to 210. It's a really nice red color. I'm sure you guys can see that in the overhead camera. So we'll set that off to the side. Same kind of packaging, very nicely done. Next roll we have neon green. Ooh, that's one of my favorite colors, especially for Halloween because it's a good substitute for glow-in-the-dark filament. Oh wow, this is very, very brilliant. Let's get these out of the light so we don't cast a lot of shadows. Sorry about that, headphone users. And this is their neon green PLA. Same information, 180 to 210, 0.03 tolerance, 1.75 millimeter neon green. And that is a very, very nice color. I'm sure you guys can see that in the front camera too. That does look like glow-in-the-dark filament while it's glowing, and I like that. So that's our third roll. Next roll here we have light green. Light green. Same information, 0.03, 1.75, 180 to 210. And that actually looks kind of like glow-in-the-dark filament too. So that's a nice one. So, oh, actually, I have some two color ideas coming to mind for Halloween stuff. But anyway, that's a really cool color, light green. That's roll number 4. And this is some wood filament. It looks like the package may have popped open from the vacuum seal, but that's okay. Yeah, wood fill filament, 1.75, 0.03 tolerance, 180 to 210. We'll check that out in a minute. Wood fill, interesting. I've never printed with wood fill, and I do want to insert the hardened nozzle on the gMax so we can get printing with that. So this is our last roll. This is roll number 6. And it is Lake Blue. Same information, 1.75, 0.03, and 180 to 210. That's a very nice blue. Very, very nice. You guys can see that on the cameras. Okay, so there is our 6 rolls of filament from AMZ 3D. That's awesome. So let's go ahead and head over to the computer. I've already got a model picked out. We're going to do the Cali Cat. That's going to be our new kind of test model. So it also checks the printer to see how things are going as far as my settings and see how dialed in my printer is. So it's a nice little test model too. Plus it's a cool little color sample to use for all the different color filaments. And we have a lot of filaments to go through here. So what we're going to do is right off the bat, I'm not sure which color I want to start with. Let's start with the Lake Blue. Let's do that. Let's do the Lake Blue in the Cali Cat, and we'll get that printing. And but before we do that, let's go ahead and check out one of the packages of filament. Since we're going to use the Lake Blue filament, let's go ahead and open it up and take a look at the filament itself. So let's go ahead and put all this filament off to the side. I brought it all the way over here for whatever reason. And let's take a look at one roll of filament. So, sorry headphone users. So it's vacuum packed very nicely. And I have a pair of scissors here. You guys can see that in the overhead camera. It's very nicely sealed. I like having the silica pack. It's not a Ziploc pack, so you'll have to provide your own storage for these. I like to keep all my stuff in giant containers full of silica bags, or I use Ziploc bags with a couple of silica bags of mine. So, but I also live in Las Vegas and it's dry here. So sorry about that, headphone users. Let's get this out of the bag. And our silica bag fell out. It's a nice one too. It's not the cheap stuff. Let's take a look at the filament itself. All right, that's very, very nice. It looks like it's very nicely wound on the spool, and it's been clipped into the little retainer. So let's go ahead and grab our cutters and let's check out the filament itself. Because I like to do a couple of tests. I like to do the bend test, and I also like to do a clip test to see how the filament actually clips. If it's really coarse and brittle, it'll just snap like wire. But if it's at the right consistency, in my opinion, it'll have a nice soft clip. It'll clip firmly, but it'll be somewhat soft. So I don't unroll all this. Let's just go ahead and we'll pull a couple of meters out here, and then we'll loop it back through the larger hole. I do like having multiple retainer holes on the spool itself when you're done with the filament. But having one on both sides and having this larger one here is actually kind of a nice idea too. So let's go ahead and check out our couple of tests. Let's go ahead and do the bend test first and see how this works. Yeah, that's really nice. That takes a lot of effort. That's really good. I like to see that. And let's go ahead and do our clip test. And we'll clip it on an angle here so you guys can see in the overhead camera. It's got a nice smooth cut, and you guys can see it in the forward camera. I'll do another one. It does have a very nice smooth cut, so that's good to see. So before we run it through the printer, I'll also do a diameter check, and I'll let you know how that is. But let's go ahead and head back over to let's go ahead and head over to Simplify 3D now, and we'll get our Cali Cat set up for printing, and we'll head over to the gMax and get this started. Okay folks, so here we are at Thingiverse. Here is the Cali Cat, the Calibration Cat. And this is one of my favorite models to print when I'm calibrating my printer because it's a super quick, easy print at about 45 millimeters or 45 minutes. And it's not super tall, it's only 35 millimeters tall, but it's got some specific measurements that need to be taken, which is really cool. And like I said, it's a super easy, quick print. So let's head over to Simplify 3D and I'll show you my settings for the Cali Cat. Alright, so here we are in Simplify 3D, and here is the Cali Cat down on the print bed at 100% of original scale of the model. And it's a cute little model. It's even got a little tail back there. So let's check out my process settings. Under retraction, these are my retraction settings. I have my retraction distance set at 1 millimeter. The vertical lift is 0.6 millimeters. The speed is 40 millimeters per second. And I have my wipe nozzle setting set at 2 millimeters. So under layer height, we're doing a 0.16 millimeter layer height with 3 top layers, 3 bottom layers, and 3 perimeters. We also have our first layer setting at 105 in both the height and width. That way we get a nice bed adhesion. And we've slowed down our first layer speed to 75% of original speed. And we have our choose start point set at a back location here at 300 by 350 millimeters in the X and Y. We're also running a skirt at 10 millimeters away from the object at 8 outlines just to make sure our extruder is primed and ready. For infill, we are using 15%, and you can see my angles here for all my different infill, external, and internal infills. We aren't generating any support material. This is AMZ 3D filament, so we're going to start at 203 degrees, which is usually the temperature I print most of my filaments at, so that's a good starting temperature. That way I don't have to mess around with temperature settings. Under cooling, I have my standard 3-stage cooling system set up. Under speed, we're going to run this out at 40 millimeters per second because I've run this Cali Cat before at this speed and I know it's a good speed to work with. Our outline under speed, which is the outermost perimeter speed, is down to 70% of that speed, and our infill is going to be running at 80% of that speed. Other than that, none of the other settings that have been applied in the new version of Simplify 3D have been applied under the advanced setting either. So let's go ahead and hit OK and hit Prepare to Print, and you can see how our little Cali Cat slices. And it's a pretty simple print, and you can see the infill. There is some bridging going on. There is some nice little angles that need to be measured, and there's got a lot of little areas here for the printer to really test out. There's some insets. It's got some really cool details, and I really like it because it's a cat. So let's head over to the workbench, and we'll do our measurements of our filament, and we'll load up some of that AMZ 3D filament, and let's get printing our little Cali Cat. Okay, so let's do a diameter check real quick, but let's clip off some filament here so we're not trying to tangle with the roll a lot. And let's go ahead and clip off about 1 meter there. We'll set this aside while we clip this back up into the roll. And I have my digital micrometer here ready to go. So let's flip that over. This is the AMZ 3D filament, and let's do a diameter check now. They do say they are between 0.03 millimeters tolerance. So let's go ahead and check it out. So hopefully you guys can see everything here. I'm going to go ahead and zero this out. We're zeroed out. Let's go ahead and open JAWS. 1.74, that's pretty good. That's full length. You guys can see that. Close the jaw. 1.73. Pretty good. Let's pull some more. You guys can see that. 1.73. And we'll do one more here. 1.74. That's actually really good. That's a really good tolerance there for the AMZ 3D filament. So let's go ahead and head over to the gMax and let's get our Cali Cat printing. Okay, so we have the Cali Cat loaded up on the SD card in our gMax 1.5 XT Plus, and I loaded up some of the Lake Blue AMZ 3D filament. Let's go ahead and get that print going, and I'll set up my time-lapse camera and I'll see you guys on the other side. Okay, so we're back after the print, and our little Cali Cat turned out perfect. I am super happy with the results. This is the Lake Blue filament from AMZ 3D Filaments, and it really turned out nice. This is a very, very cool color. It's a very, very good texture on it. It's got a nice gloss finish on it. The temperature may change a little bit because I did have a little bit of stringing going on in my print. It's very minimal, so I may lower the temperature because we did start with 203 degrees, which is my standard temperature for printing PLA. And that's the one I've had the most success with most of the filaments that I use. So I might dial that up or down a little bit to try and get rid of that stringing. But other than that, the print turned out awesome. I do love this color. This lake blue color is very, very cool. And we do have a lot of testing to do because, as you can see, we do have a lot of filament here thanks to AMZ 3D Filaments. And I have a lot of models that I want to print besides my usual suspects, which you guys have seen in my previous reviews of filament, which are the Lion HD model, the Babam model from Chaos Cortec, the Tree Frog, and my Maker coin. So I'll be printing those first, which I actually going to start printing those right away because I really want to see some of the other variables of how the filament looks on different models. And after that, we'll definitely go through all the different colors here, and we'll install that hardened nozzle so we can use some of that wood filament. And I have some ideas in mind for the neon green and the light green for some of the Halloween projects that we're doing. So all in all, we have a lot of filaments here to test. As far as the filament itself, from the unboxing up to the first print, we did do our measurement test, and the filament was pretty consistent as far as measurements go, 1.73 and 1.74, and that's pretty close to 1.75, and their tolerance is 0.03 millimeters, which is pretty good. We did check out the bend test and the clip test, and both of those, in my opinion, passed very, very good. It took a lot of effort to really bend it and snap the filament, and when we cut it with the clippers, it was a nice clean cut. So it's passed all the initial testing, so it's time to start printing up some really cool models and see how the filament actually looks. And like I said, we have a lot of colors to get through, so we're going to have a lot of testing to do. But the filament review will be coming up pretty quick because we're going to integrate some of this filament into the 3DP Halloween project. So you'll see some of these colors coming up again this week. Pretty soon we'll be coming up on Halloween, where I'm going to try and put together something really cool for you guys to see for the very last day. So stay tuned for that. But as far as the AMZ 3D filament unboxing and first prints, I'm pretty impressed. I think this is some really good filament. The color is very consistent. I like the way it prints too. It's got a nice gloss finish to it, so I'm anxious to see how it prints on other models, like I said. There's a wide variety of colors. Like I said, the Amazon information will be down in the description. And they do carry, like I said, ABS and PLA, and they do carry a variety of colors. There's even translucent filaments there too. So I'm really anxious to get printing with this. So my initial impressions right off the bat is this is some really good filament, and I really can't wait to do a full review. And I really want to give a big shout out to Jimmy Shaw over at Jimmy Shaw's Tidbits. Jimmy, you hooked me up with this filament. I really appreciate that. Thank you very much. Jimmy's got an awesome channel. I actually saw some of the AMZ filament printing on his channel before I got mine, so I was really anxious to see how the filament that we got would print too. So thank you again, Jimmy, for hooking me up with AMZ. AMZ 3D Filament, I want to give you guys a big shout out too. Thank you so much for sending along 6 rolls of filament, including some of that wood fill. I know that's one of the exotic filaments, and that'll be really fun to print with. I'm really going to put these through the paces, so you guys stay tuned. You'll see a really cool review of all your filaments. Thank you again for sending that along. I really appreciate it. And of course, my subscribers, thanks for sticking around. I know these videos are a little bit longer than normal, but I want to give you guys a full overview of how I open up a box of filament and check it out and test print it from start to finish. So that about wraps it up for today. You guys stay tuned. We'll have our full review hopefully in the next week or so as we wrap up Halloween. And of course, don't forget to subscribe to the channel, comment, like, and share those videos, and I'll talk to you guys real soon.